So I'd like to invite you to hit the comment section and let us know if you possess an African mask and if you've had like any interesting experiences with your mask that kind of suggest that you may not be just a decorative piece of art, right? But if you've not had any, that's fine. It's still okay to just still let us know that, man, I have an African mask. I don't have any strange experiences with it. But if you've had any strange experiences with your mask, put it in the comment section. What you own might be a ritual mask, and in this video, would let you know what ritual masks are and why they might behave the way they do. So don't forget to like and subscribe and share the video if you can. Yeah, share the video with anyone who you think might find it useful. On a lot of platforms I belong to, it's common to come across people who possess pieces of African mask and they have very little idea what their masks could mean. They don't know if it holds any significance, and they absolutely would like to know. I mean, there are people who would like to know, and then there are people who would assume it was just a beautiful piece of art. Well, let me break it to you first. What you have is probably not a piece of art, especially if it's an ancient or old African mask. Because once upon a time, African art was not created for viewing. They were not for aesthetic purposes, but oftentimes had some function that they performed in the sense that they could be ritual masks or they could be uh, ceremonial masks. They could also be deities, representations of the ancestors or some spirit that meant something to the people, just like um, the statue of the Ngonso, which is presently in Germany and has been for the past 120 years and counting. And the Ngonso is the Queen Mother, the deity of the Nso people in Cameroon, and they've had their lives disrupted, and things will never be the same because their deity is gone, stolen by the colonialists who claim they were given the Queen Mother as a gift, which is quite laughable to say the least. But the truth is, most of the masks that you have seen in museums or that you might possess in your homes, because I came across this mask and the current owner had received it from a relative who is now late, and the relative had taken the mask from somewhere in Nigeria in the 1970s or in the 80s when they came in to do some volunteer work or stuff like that. And you see, people come here all the time and then they take stuff away, sometimes without fully understanding what they are taking. And that, I think, is something that should bother you really if you have an African mask. Because one, what do you possess? Number two, how was it taken? Number three, is it active? Like you can never tell. So today I'm going to talk a bit about ritual masks. So if you possess an African mask that you've been told or that you suspect might be ancient, well, first, what you possess is not a piece of art. What you possess could be a material that has some deep cultural relevance and significance and could be a part of the spiritual practices of the people from where it was taken. And if you possess a ritual mask, then you need to see this video, all of it, because then it's going to help you make sense of what you possess. Now, I'm inspired to make this video because I have come across some comments here on this channel where people have said, I have a mask and the mask speaks to me, or the mask expresses itself in some form, or a mask appears to me, or the mask seems to want something, or is making demands and stuff. Like, if you possess an African mask and you're having any of these experiences, you're receiving vibrations, energies, messages, and you suspect they're coming from your mask. Well, the first piece of advice I would always give is get a reading on the mask. And yes, we read masks on this channel. So if you want a mask, there's a link in the description. You can go check out, and you can request for mask reading, and we'll do that right away. And the other absolute beauty is if you become a channel member, you could also get your readings done for free. Yeah. Before now, I wanted people to pay, but I'm thinking, yeah, if you could uh, commit, I don't know, maybe $2, three, four, just a few dollars uh, every month in support of the channel, we would read your masks, and that way it's a win-win for everyone. So, one, I'm not charging you an arm and a leg, and number two, you get to understand exactly what you possess. Now, what are ritual masks and why are they important? A ritual mask is not made for ceremonies, for entertainment. It's not a piece of educational material for telling stories or teaching or anything. No, it's the real deal, right? It's designed for rituals, and masks such as these are not worn frequently. So let's say we have a ceremonial masquerade, like the ones we put up videos dancing and entertaining people. Sometimes those masquerades uh, come whenever they please, right? Whenever there's an event, they show up. But then ritual masks do not show up whenever they please. They show up whenever they are needed, which means ritual masks are not cited unless there is need for them to be cited. Now, it is not every ritual mask that is for citing, which is why in West African culture you're going to come across certain masquerades that run in the night, and certain masquerades that should not be viewed by certain categories of people, maybe by children or by women, and then there are masquerades that should not be viewed by anyone. So they walk in the dead of night, and they make announcements in advance, and they say, "We're coming, we're going to run." And so there are bells, there are whistles, there are announcements before the masquerade leaves its abode. And what that does is it ensures that people are in their homes. And in fact, some of the masquerades have to uh, so for certain masquerades to go by the towns, you have to turn off the lights in your home. Everywhere has to be pitch black, because under those circumstances they should not be cited. So there are ritual masks that can be cited. There are ritual masks that should never be cited. Now, there are ritual masks that used for public rituals, and then there are some that are used for private rituals. Now, so, but really, what are they, and how are they different from regular masks? So, a ritual mask is a connection between the people and a higher force of spirit. So it could be a deity, it could be the ancestors, it could be the founders of the town. But then a ritual mask oftentimes represents a covenant. They are the manifestation, the living manifestation of a covenant. So we've said you are the you're the purifier of our community, right? So we identify a spirit and we say you're the purifier of our community, or we say to God, we say, Almighty God, you're the purifier of our community. And then they have communion with Him. They offer sacrifices, and then there's an agreement. Now, the sign of that agreement is the mask. So when that mask is made, it is consecrated, and it is designed to be the representation of the covenant with the people. And what the mask says is, whenever I am presented, let this action happen. So it triggers the terms of the covenant. So maybe we've agreed to purify community once every year. And so once every year, once it's time for the purification, the mask is presented. And then once it's presented, then the purification happens. God purifies the community, and then uh, everything begins afresh. And these some of the rituals you find like during the New Year festivals, yeah. And then during ceremonies that represents maybe a rite of passage, that represents moving into a new stage in life, that represents a new phase, that represents a new year, a new farming season. So like the mask I showed at the beginning of this video, and I will show again. This was a New Year festival somewhere in Enugu, Nigeria, and they are preparing now. So what you see in the pot is a mixture of herbs that purifies. So it brings the old year to one end, and then it gives rise to a new potent nourishment for the year to come. So this herb can be used in treatment, can be used to fortify people, can be used for all sorts of spiritual works. Yeah, so it's like this is like the king of all. This is like the king of all herbs, or the king of all. I don't know. It's like everything all in one. But then it brings together all of the experiences of the previous year, and then out of all of that, it creates something new, something awesome. And I'm going to talk some more about some of these rituals, but not in this video, right? And in the presence of this whole exercise, you have the music happening in the presence of the community shrine, and then you have this mask. Now, this is a very where we are is in an inner chamber. This mask is not available for public viewing, right? It's not available for public viewing. Only like initiates, members of the town who are of a certain standing and who have prepared themselves in a certain way were allowed to be in this inner circle to view what was going on, right? So I I was only able to get a bit, just this little clip. I don't have I was not allowed to like cover everything. Uh, to people who don't understand what's going on and stuff. So I'll save the rest of the details for when I make this year's video for the New Year Festival, which is stuff we've been documenting for the past 3 years. We've gone to different communities and we've tried to understand the significance of the New Year Festival and how different people in Africa celebrate them. So we have an exciting edition coming up this year. So watch out for that video. So masks as this representation of an ancient covenant reapply. Masks like this representation of ancient covenants reappear at certain preordained times to purify, to heal, to instruct, right? To provide guidance to the community. And these masks are never really displayed. They're never really in display anywhere and at any time. So at the end of this ceremony, the mask is removed and is returned to its home. So you visit communities as this. These masks have homes built for them, and they are stored away and locked up, and they will not surface until the next year when they are needed again. But of course, during the colonial days, two things were at play. Number one, the colonialists who were eager to take the treasures of the land were and forcefully taking away people's possessions, and when they possessed artifacts, totems, masks, any stuff they understood as works of art, they would take those too, and I'm sure they made a great deal of money selling them, and then a lot of them gave them away to the state and got titles, knighthoods, and stuff, and all those kind of stuff. people got recognition for their work in Africa, bringing in all of these wonderful precious artifacts that have made a lot of money for those who possess them till date, right? And that was the first factor. People in the quest for fame, in the quest for money, as a demonstration of their conquest, were willing to take away the heritage of the people because it was important to replace that heritage with something that would make them more amenable to the dictates of the colonialists. But then there was also a second factor, which was Christianity, because when people started embracing Christianity, they were told that anything that was not biblical and was not approved of the church was a sin. Think of the concepts of haram and halal in Islam. That's the way the church operated back in the day. So you were either a believer or you were a pagan. You just had to choose one. And if you're a pagan, you're coming to hell. You're burning. In fact, um, your everything undesirable if you did not identify as a Christian. And so when people converted, they gave away the the fetish materials that they possessed, and that kind of led to the loss of a lot of masks. So those that were not taken forcefully were given away, or maybe those that were not given away willingly were taken away forcefully. So either way, you kind of lost, uh, which kind of reminds me of a story, which a story of something that happened quite recently, right? This happened within the last 30 years, so it's quite recent. And you see the targeting here. So these men and women who are very great appeal are sent to communities, and they don't preach to regular people. No, they are very careful in the targeting. They target chiefs, they target spiritual leaders in the community, and then they offer scholarships to their children. So the kids were not taken away into slavery. No, the kids were given a place beside the white man, and they were given white man clothes, and then they were taught English, so they can go home and impress their families with their new language. And they would go home and say things as silly as a bucket is big, and people are impressed. Wow, did you hear what he said? A bucket is big. They didn't know what buckets were. They didn't know any words in English. So anything you said in English, even if you said it poorly, seemed pretty impressive. Now, these targeting of these custodians of the culture led them to willingly give away whatever they had in their possession. And then when one chief priest surrenders his shrine, it weakened the system. And then they would go back to the church and they say, yeah, they have no powers in their shrines. That's why we can take away the shrine. We've taken away your God, because your God has no power. Your God has no influence. Only Jesus is powerful. And it kind of worked, because then people weren't thinking, yeah, you can as well, maybe go to a priest's house, take his garments, his priestly garments, or go to the church and steal the altar, or take a crucifix, or take stuff. That doesn't mean Jesus is dead or Jesus isn't powerful. People rob churches all the time. They rob priests, kidnap them, kill them, and so because you can take away a mask from a shrine doesn't mean there's no deity, or the deity is not powerful and all that. So our people went on desecrating ancient shrines because man, they took away the powerful Ogugu in this community. Therefore, these things can be taken away, and that also That also calls to mind the role of myth in religious teaching, because religious education. Because then, when a lot of people are taught that, man, if you touch the altar, you die. If you do this, you're finished. You go crazy. And then someone's gonna try it anyways, and they'll be like, okay, well, nothing happened. Like the ancient story of the hen. I don't remember the title, but there was a story we told as kids where the hen was the king of the animals, and all the animals feared and respected the hen. And the reason was simple. The hen said, "I have a comb on my head, and it's burning fire." Now, the animals kind of believed that the cockcomb was burning fire, so they feared it because, man, an animal that can have live flames on its head has to be the most powerful of all of us. But then, as the years wore on, the hen and the cock became more and more authoritarian, and the people got fed up. And the curious cats felt it was really time to put this theory to a test. The cockcomb really made a fire, and it was like a really really cold night, and they wanted to make some fire, but no one had any. So they tried to steal some fire from the head of the of the sleeping cock, and when they got close and they touched it, it was cold as can be. Oh my god! And ever since, the animals never stopped hunting hunting birds for food, because, man, um but that's one of those stories we had as children. But that's kind of like what happened to our traditional religion, where a lot of myths were associated with masks, with artifacts and stuff, and then it kind of created the impression that they were something else that they actually weren't. And so, when the colonialists could easily take them away, it kind of it broke the faith of a lot of people. But then, in Christianity, they also borrowed the same strategy that has failed the traditionalists. So people went into church believing that, man, the Bible is you read the Bible, you go crazy. You burn the Bible, you die. You break a crucifix, you die, or you go to hell, and all those kinds of stuff. So eventually, when people started, ripping Bibles apart, burning them, and doing all sorts of things, and nothing happened, people are kind of realized that, okay, all those stuff weren't true anymore, and so people are leaving Christianity and flooding back to the traditional religion. So the lesson is, don't lie to people about faith, about what they should believe and stuff, because it's always going to backfire, right? Be truthful. If it does nothing, say, man, it does nothing, but we kind of believe. It helps our faith. It helps us, to believe in something we can see and stuff. Anyways, yeah. So that's kind of how the ritual masks were taken away. So a lot of the ritual masks were given away freely. Some were abandoned, some were stolen, and all that. And somehow, some of those masks have found themselves in Europe, in America, scattered everywhere across the world, and in living rooms. And you might be in possession of one. And this is what I think: if you possess an African mask, and you suspect it might be a ritual mask, because it sometimes gives you a certain vibe, a certain feeling, so it communicates or appears or comes in your meditation, or it has a presence around it, or you feel these vibrations, this energy coming out of it, or it speaks to you. Well, you have one of two things. One, I would encourage you to get a reading. Use the link in the description. Um, Check out our page on how mass readings work, and see if you need one. And then you could also become a channel member if you need a reading on your mask and you want to check our option. Either ways, you support the channel, you support the work we're doing, and we help you figure out, one, if what you have is truly um, a ritual mask, and what you can do about it. Yeah, because there are a bunch of options. You could give it back if you know where it came from. right? But if you don't know, you could give it to us and we'll would return it for you. Yeah, that's something we're also willing to do. We taking back the masks and we are returning them to where they came from originally. So if you have a mask and you have any interest in giving it back, please get in touch. I'll put a link in the description, and then you could also become a channel member. Channel members have access to all of our services. So you want to give back a mask, you want to help promote the work we do, you want to make donations to us, you want to support this channel so that we create more awesome content. Just go on become a channel member, right? But then you have a mask you want to read in, check out the link in the description or become a member and you get it done at no additional cost. And so know that some of the reasons why your mask might act up from time to time could be because of the cyclical nature of the ritual that it participates in. So when the cycle comes around, there are chances um, it could begin to act because then it becomes active. Yeah, so masks like this are not always active. They are inactive most of the time, but then they're only activated when they are needed. But they still retain a presence though. Yeah, so um, they could act up because it's the time when they are usually active, or part of that covenant might also entail maybe certain periodic rituals that should happen, maybe to fortify it or to strengthen it, or maybe to appease or maybe it's just part of the covenant. Like, okay, so we give you this, you give us that, and then every now and then we give you this and that. It's kind of like paying alimony and stuff. But then it's probably been up on a wall for so long, and it isn't supposed to, and you're not meeting up with what the owners are supposed to do for it. So yeah, and then also it could also be that you might have a ritual mask that is not for public viewing, but you've displayed it somewhere where people can see it from time to time, and that is not part of the contract. So ordinarily, spirits who own these masks would stop. They will stop relating through it because it's been defiled, it has been deconsecrated. But nonetheless, every once in a while, there could be some activity in there because the sometimes they're kind of like reminders to say, man, you this they consecrated this mask. We want you to fix it because the mask has a job to do that it's probably not doing anymore. So, irrespective of what the reason could be, maybe due to the consecration or because of the cyclical nature of the ritual that it performs, or maybe just because it's a benevolent spirit that wants to reach out from time to time, or maybe just likes the vibes and wants to connect in a different way. Um, I hope you figure this out and uh, go on and write in the comments what your experiences have been, and let us know if you need any form of assistance. I will be here to answer all the questions, to provide more insight, and to give readings if that is necessary. I will beg once more, if you've seen the video up to this point, then you've probably found some stuff that I really like. Just let me know in the comment section that you saw the video to the end, and please consider becoming a channel member. We are not making we're not really making any money on YouTube, but channel membership kind of gives us a fair chance because then we could get a little more. So please support us and help us grow. If you like what we do here, feel free to always let us know, additional stuff you'd want us to get involved in, stuff you'd want us to do. And thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.